Hey, welcome to MotoGP Mac. Coming up is Catalunya, one of my favorite races in the whole season. Many people's favorite race. It's not like it's a given too, because any of the European moto manufacturers could win this one. Even though Pecco's been running strong.
Yeah, well, I suppose most people's real reason that they're a fan of Catalunya is it turn 5 or turn 7? I can't remember. Is that you can get your shoulder down to the ground, and everyone loves those pictures of watching MotoGP riders lying on the curb as they go around the corner. But yes, the circuit, the Catalunya in Barcelona is. Yeah, it's probably one of my favorite races actually to even attend. It's very simple to get there, very cheap actually, and they normally used to do a test after on the Monday. So if you stay there, you would get to meet an awful lot of the riders. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I think it could be right here, but I just don't know. Like the KTMs, they're so heavy on tires, and Catalunya will expose you on tires big time. Do you know what I mean? Because on fast corners,
it chews them up.
It will really expose you. The Aprilias, I think the Aprilias probably, if they were running a GP as a time trial, I think they would probably be the fastest bikes around the place. But they seem to have like a Yamaha problem of if they get behind someone, they find it very hard to pass. And you could see it now at the last race, against the KTM engine, they had nothing in a straight line. They had absolutely nothing in acceleration compared to the KTM. The KTM was able to hold them off quite comfortably on the straight. So that's what I'm saying is like, if they could get out on their own and run like a Yamaha could do on their own, do the lines they want to do, on a time trial, I think they would rock it. But, it's very hard to look past Ducati right now at any fucking circuit. Do you know what I mean?
I know. Didn't they just say they just had an advanced bit and grip?
Yeah, their new special launch. Yeah, but look at their new special launch system, which is not new, but they've fucking tweaked it. And you could hear Binder at the end of the Austrian Grand Prix, and he's like, you found the secret too, Joe. The secret to the starts. And Pecco off the line looked really, really good, where he's normally not great, but he's not bad either. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't have called it Pecco's strong point.
Mediocre, put it that way.
Yeah, like not as bad as Maverick. Do you know what I mean? But I suppose, look, he's dangerous now. The Ducati, it's fast everywhere, really. Do you know what I mean? It is a bit of tweaking.
It's such a nimble package. The handling is there. It's just handles like a dream. And
I can't wait for Catalunya, because Catalunya, as I said, and like before we went into the Austrian Grand Prix, I did say about that, the track at Austria would show up any of the handling problems for the Yamaha, and this track is quite the same as well. Do you know what I mean? There's a mixture between fast and slow corners, so you will see the issues. Like if you remember when we were at Sachsenring and going down into turn 10, you could see, for example, KTM was very much so exposed for their corner grip going through that, and Catalunya is the same. But it's a brilliant track. If anyone has the means to go there, do you know what I mean? Like tickets are, for the weekend, your tickets are like 90 quid, 30 euros a day to go.
Oh my God.
Do you know what I mean? And that's the whole day, obviously. Now that's general access. Like if you look at the turn 1, you can see like turn 1, you can see turn 1, turn 2. You can see him going out into turn 3, but you could see him coming back into turn 5 and then down into 6 and 7. So like you can there's a load of places there that you get general admission, you can get a lot of viewing. So great track to go to, quite reasonable, except for Barcelona is quite expensive if you're staying in some of the nice hotels there. But other than that, the beach is good as well. Hot women on the beach. So definitely thumbs up for me. But yeah, it'd be interesting, very interesting to see what happens with the KTMs now. They got a lot of criticism over their tire wear especially in the Austrian Grand Prix. So see, can they try and dial that out now will be the interesting thing.
Yeah, but I think Aprilia right now, the biggest thing they need is a rider. They need that rider.
They need that alien. They're kind of in the same zone as Aprilia right now. They need that alien just to be able to take it to the next level.
Well, they got Binder, but they got Binder, right? I mean, he's damn.
See, this is
one thing. If you got a guy that has super speed, all right, that can help you a lot in development. It gives you an ear. It gives you a marker, you know.
So Binder, look, Jack is and like Guidotti has come out and said this. Jack has what a lot of Jack has done this year is help them with their one lap performance, right? Because Jack is fairly good at one lap performance, not the best, but he's good, right? Binder and them were struggling last year on one lap performance. Binder is very kind on his tires, and this is where I think the whole major problem for KTM is. Like, you look at Jack, he sinks like a stone in the race.
Yeah,
because Jack can't save tires.
No, not to save his life.
Right. Binder can, but he still struggles, and that's where the whole thing is. Like, even with someone that is as kind as Binder on tires, it still eats them. Do you know what I mean? More so than any other bike out there. I know there'll be people out there when they're supposed to use their tires. We know, but they're using them more than the other manufacturers. So, for me, that's where I think they really need to develop. But they also need that alien. Like, I still think if you put Marc Marquez or if you put Pecco or or who else would there really be in that club? Bezzecchi, maybe.
Yeah.
You put them all on the same bike. I'm not sure Binder would win that race. Do you know what I mean? I think I still think there's levels to the game. Yeah. Do I think Binder can develop into an alien? I think he can. Do you know what I mean? I think battle for the championship would give him the confidence, not even winning it, but the battle for the championship. Right now, he's like, winning here and there. But like, start consistently winning, start thinking about championship, changing in that mindset as well. You know, we always forget that throwing a leg over a bike, you have to have a certain mindset. And I go back to a racer called Bruce Anstine, very popular in TT circles and this, right? But Clive Paget of Paget Motorcycles always said, if Bruce wakes up this morning and decides he wants to win the race, there will be no one faster. Do you know what I mean? It's just... Now I know it's road racing, maybe a little bit thing, but I don't know. There's just a feeling that you get, maybe a feeling that you get when you're in the bookies and you're about to put a bet on. You think you're 100% sure this person is going to win. But again, it's
like Binder. Binder does have times of brilliance where he just goes balls to the wall and flies, and nobody's catching him. It's just, you see him when that bike starts to bend in half. All right. Yep. And he's gone, you know, but the intermittent between the two, if you could just keep that up, he'd be set. He'd be on a podium every time.
If he could be consistently fast. And that's been a bit harsh on him in my view. But what I mean is, like, it's like if he can be consistently alien fast, like he put the pressure on Pecco for 5 or 6 laps. But he needs to be able to put the pressure on Pecco for the 25 laps. Do you know what I mean? It's not just 5 or 6. And now, saying that, I don't believe there was anyone that could live with Pecco. Like, he was, what's the word? Metronomic in Australia. Like, every lap is boom, 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 boom. You can fucking time
Pecco has speed. He has alien speed. People they underrate him on speed.
Because he's not flashy in how he rides, and I will call it straight away. He looks boring when he's riding.
Yeah,
because he is metronomic. Boom, 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 boom.
Right.
Boom. Do you know what I mean?
Steady Eddie Austin.
Steady Eddie, but a fucking fast Eddie. Like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, whereas then you look at the likes of Marquez when he was in his heyday. Do you know what I mean? On the Honda, the fucking thing was all over the place. You could see this fucker was pushing past the limit.
Right.
Even Rossi, like Pecco reminds me an awful lot of Jorge Lorenzo and the way he rides. Like you would never have thought Jorge was pushing. Do you know what I mean? But he was fucking pushing, and he was as smooth as butter. Like he was spread your butter on your toast. Like, do you know what I mean? That's where, and this is where I'm saying that that's where Pecco has, in my view, found the sweet spot between riding a V4 like an inline 4. The speed is all up. It's fast. It's furious, but it's controlled, and it looks very boring.
And by the way, slight diversion here, guys. One thing Dorna does not like, they're not on Ducati's side or European bike side. They're just not. Dorna is like any other government operation. They go for who has the most money. There's a deep pocket theory. They want whoever has the most fans in the stands and who gives them the most money.
Yeah, yes, I would agree with you, and I disagree with you in some things. Like I've seen it that Dorna would push nationally as well, more so than anything else. So like there is a big thing right now about TNT that took over the commercial rights for a lot of the races, right? Mm-hmm. And basically TNT is a UK company, and we do not have a UK rider in the big class. So like they're trying to push.
They do push for nationalities also.
Nationality, yeah. So like Spain may need a rider. There. Like I remember Yanni Hernandez, if you remember him, they were pushing on him as well because of where he was from. We did have UK or Irish representation, whatever you want to call it. But again, like right now, there's no British person within the realm, right? But there's a major British broadcaster there. So Dorna like, well, we could get 50 or 60, well, not million, but like we could get a couple of million more people tuned in to MotoGP if we had a British rider. So therefore, it's commercially viable to start to push to try and find one. That's why they were trying to push it recently to get Jake Dixon in there, which he's not going there. I don't think he's ready for it. I don't think he's even mature enough yet to ride MotoGP. I know he rode with Petronas in one Grand Prix next to Rossi, but I just don't think he's ready for it. I still think the battle for Bezzecchi is raging on. And the reason I still think it's a battle for him, right, is because Gigi said during the week that they have no pressure put on him for a deadline of when Bezzecchi has to decide. And for me, if they were really, really pressuring him, they would have said, you need to decide by X. Now, they did give him an original deadline, which had passed, because it was all supposed to be done before Austria. But for me, I think it's really, really... they really want to have him in Pramac, being very honest. They want to have him on factory machinery, and they want to own his contract. If he goes to Pramac, it will be a Works Ducati contract.
You know what stinks? Go ahead. One thing, it stinks like dead fish, but I want to let you keep going.
So right now he is contracted through the VR46 Riders Academy, who own his contract. Mm-hmm. So he has to renew his contract with them or direct with a factory. So the way that Uzio wants to do it is that they have no problem. They will give him if he wants to go to a Ducati factory contract, he goes on Ducati factory equipment in a Ducati factory team. Ducati are saying, we only have 2 factory riders within the factory team, and that's Bastianini and Pecco. So we would give him factory equipment inside and think. But basically what they're giving, what Ducati want is they want control of a Works Ducati contract, that Ducati will own the contract for him.
Right.
Whereas that takes away all of VR46 bargaining power. And it also says that, in my view, if for 2025, if Ducati don't give VR46 a good deal, VR46 could go to Yamaha, but they wouldn't be able to take Bezzecchi with them because Bezzecchi would be owned by Ducati.
Right.
They don't want that. So that is, in my view, the biggest battle right now. And this is why I think Rossi is getting involved in talking with Bezzecchi, because Rossi will have a major influence over Bezzecchi. If Rossi will say to him, and he has said to him, he thinks he should stay, I think Bezzecchi will take him for his word and stay.
Yeah.
Like realistically, let's be real, right? Even if he stays with the R46 this year and stays on a GP23 for next year, it is highly likely that it will be Pecco and Bezzecchi in the factory Ducati team in 2025. Not Martin, Pecco and Bezzecchi. That's my view of it.
I could see that. I could see that because he's been, if you look at the whole thing, Bezzecchi's been more consistent than Martin. And especially with Martin with that damn knee injury. Knee injuries don't fix themselves.
But it's not even that. It's
or the nerve injury in his hand. It's not arm pump. It's like a carpal tunnel.
Yeah, and for me, look, I think it's more about a more Italian thing. Being honest, you have two very fast Italians on the bike.
That factor also, yes. But I'll tell you one thing it stinks, and this is bringing around politics. It shows you have Ducati, okay? You have Dorna. Dorna pays Ducati, as we've said this 100 times, roughly for those 4 bikes about $8-10 million to run those bikes. Okay, they want extra. Dorna says we want extra bikes in the grid. That makes sense in itself, right?
Yeah.
So then Ducati says, you know what? I don't need the 8 bikes. This is more work, and this is overkill on data. In fact, they said we will knock down. It's not a question of if we're going to knock some of the bikes down. It's going to be when. All right, we're not holding this 8 bikes forever. So you know they're not happy on the other side, right? Here comes KTM. Hey, we want to run a couple of new bikes. Oh, of course. Then all of a sudden Dorna goes, no, for free? Does that make any sense whatsoever? No, it doesn't. Only way it makes sense is Honda talks to, they're in Dorna's in their pocket and says, listen, we want to keep Marquez because, hey, you send him out. We let you have 2 more bikes on there, right? He's gone. That's a foregone conclusion. He's jumping off the Honda right then and there. So Honda's sticking up Marquez's ass that's shaking his hand on one side and stabbing him back in the other. It's so obvious. And this, we have this mystery manufacturer, so we can't throw 2 more bikes on there. Where's this mystery manufacturer?
They don't. They've turned around. They've turned around. I still believe there is talk going on with Suzuki to come back. Whether that is
no. Suzuki's in such trouble. But
just wait. What they have said is that they're keeping the door open for Suzuki.
Yeah, they're talking shit because you know what? They had a financial, the Wall Street Journal. You hear me say it sometime. And the Wall Street Journal was talking about how they are not a motorcycle company anymore. That that division's shot, and they're parking the bikes in the back, and it's a flimsy fly by night kind of. It's not an if or a when they're going to take the bikes out.
Yeah, look, I don't know.
There's somebody who has no whims, is not a fan or anything like that. This is a financial.
I'm just telling you what Dorna said. Dorna are trying to keep the door open for Suzuki, which I can understand it. But
why you're going to stop people from going on the grid? You're going to pay $8-10 million to put bikes on a grid because I'm going to leave the door open? Come on, I might be born at night, not last night.
Yeah, but look, I just think. Look, I think there's a whole further politicians thing going on or political thing going on within there, right? I think that the whole concessions thing flaring up, KTM coming out and immediately saying we're fucking against it, not going to happen. Jesus Christ, no way. By the way, can we have 2 extra bikes on the grid?
That makes more sense. But wait,
right? So Dorna are going to go to KTM. Well, you scratch our fucking backs, but we'll scratch yours. Like they've already said that they will allow 5 KTMs on the grid next year.
Right.
KTM are like, well, look, if we're fucking putting 5 on, we might as well put 6 on because we're going to have to build a whole new team. We'll have to build infrastructure anyway. Blah, 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 blah. So I still believe that.
I thought the 5th bike got shot down.
No, the 5th bike was still there. It's the 6th bike that they're shooting down. So,
but that doesn't make as much sense as when they're giving Ducati $8 and $10 million and then saying they can't put an extra bike on. It smells. It just smells because because Ford has been in Honda's pocket so long
but I don't necessarily think that it's Honda, right? I personally think what's happening right now is KTM have turned around and publicly said we will not sanction or we will not agree to any concessions to help Honda or Yamaha.
Yeah.
And then they've gone to Dorna and said, we would like to take up the other 2 slots that are available on the grid. And Dorna are saying, well, no.
Yeah, but every time I'm reading that they're shooting at, they've shot the bike down. So
yeah, but that's my point. I think there's a whole political landscape here that we don't know about, but I think underneath it all, I think what is happening is that there is going to be a deal done. There is going to be some sort of deal done to get those bikes on the grid, or if not, then Honda and Yamaha will not get concessions.
And then, but say KTM says, okay, I'll let them have some concessions. Then you have Ducati saying, no fucking way. Then you have Aprilia saying, no fucking way.
Huh? Yeah. No.
So that's a lot of throwing the dice for somebody having two.
No. And this is where you're wrong, Jake. Yamaha or Ducati have said we're open to talking about it.
Yeah, okay. I know. We're open to talking as long as it doesn't give them anything. Yeah, that's PC.
So what is going to happen is, in my view, KTM wants something, Ducati wants something, Aprilia wants something, right? They definitely do, right?
Yeah, but what does Aprilia want? What does Ducati want that's going to be that good that that's going to give the Honda and Yamaha concessions?
They're not worried about Honda or Yamaha concessions. They probably have something that they want out of Dorna. And they're going to bend the route or get them to bend to give it to them. And I can guarantee that's what's going to happen. And I'll always go back to the story about Ferrari and the mysterious engine penalty that they never got. But all of a sudden their cars were fucking a second and a half slower per race. Over fucking night, right? It wasn't like what they were doing was they were caught cheating by putting more fuel into the engine by tricking the electronics in a way, right? And Red Bull had them cut out and said, oh, by this. And it went through a whole thing, a whole hearing or whatever. But the result of that hearing, which was supposed to be made public, was kept private. No one knew what they did, how they did it, why they did it, and what the penalty was. And I genuinely think there's deals like this going on in MotoGP to get those 2 bikes on the grid, to get Ducati what they want and Aprilia what they want.
I just think that Marquez is well, I know Marquez is Honda's entire MotoGP program, and they'll give their left nut to keep them and keep things as status quo. They still want to go back to I have the best rider, but it's just good enough to win. Yeah, I can make a crap bike and have the best rider and win. They've been doing that for years, and that's what they're used to. And the corporate structures, that's to go with what you're used to.
Like all you're talking about there is just a short. Even if it does happen, let's just say there's no concessions, there's no fucking deal with KTM, there's no deal with any of those. In 2025, Marquez is going to be on a different manufacturer, right? I don't think Honda can close that gap within a year, right? So even if they make,
I don't think they knew that yet. I don't think they're so used to that kid riding around outriding everybody. They're not you and I. They're not. You got a corporate. Guys at the corporate level. They're not following the MotoGP thing like we are. They keep saying this is what's worked before and this is what should work again.
And I suppose that there is some truth to that, because what Gigi did say. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But look, there is some there is some truth to what you're saying, that Honda have been a little bit arrogant in what they believe that their status quo is and within thing and how to design a bike. And look,
I liked your last 6 hours ago. Your last clip, the video that was very good.
And look, I do find it interesting that, look, I suppose for the likes of Honda and Yamaha, and I'll call Yamaha out in this, right? They've had so much success in the past by relying on
the
riders and what they think is excellent, right?
Mm-hmm.
The bar has moved in that, but they still haven't seen that the bar has moved. Do you know what I mean? They've been putting it in. I'd like to call it, they've been spinning tails back to Japan. So while it might have been an issue, it wasn't an issue. It was just unlucky or whatever. So
yeah, the king has no clothes is the expression.
Yeah, it's just, look, everything hasn't fully been reported in my view, and now they found themselves in the shit of where they're exposed. So, but look, anyway, I think the story that came out about Gigi Dall'Igna. Now, I'm not sure whether it was 2 or 3 years ago, or whether it was 5 years ago, or whether it was before he was like. But I'm trying to remember how long Puig is the manager of Repsol Honda.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been a good few years. So maybe it was earlier, but how big of a fuck up, or how stupid would you feel right now?
Not as bad as you think. With the corporate, the way that corporate works is they say, I could just see Gigi going up and say, I have this, I have this, I have this, I have this, and they're going, yeah, but that costs money. We're already winning, And Gigi would end up sitting on his hands. You'd have this excellent, engineering director, and sitting on his hands going, I have a million ideas, and they're just telling me go pound sand because it costs money. That's the way that, it's especially when you're the redheaded stepchild at HRC.
I get you, but I think there was just, I suppose, a bit of arrogance there. So Puig was named Repsol Honda team principal in 2018. So he must have signed. So that means realistically it was 2 or 3 years ago, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, that Gigi was to go to Honda. Now, Honda already would have known they were in trouble at this stage. There you go.
What do you mean?
So I just looked at Wikipedia there. He was named as Repsol Honda team principal for the 2018 season.
Okay.
So in the report, it said that Puig nearly signed Gigi. So that must have been in 2019 or 2020.
Oh, shit. Well, they knew they were in trouble because Mark was going to leave in 2019, remember?
Yeah.
Remember this thing? How many people remember that one? But he was... I would give cash money because Honda put out a pod after they won the title, and he was just going on. The bike sucked. He had half a load on. The bike can't turn. It has bad handling, but I ride around it. I just give me speed and I win, And Honda had a fit. Honda had an absolute fit on
it. I always look though at this thing, right? That there is a generational thing as well. Like, because when you look at MotoGP racing in years gone by, right, there was Max Biaggi, right? And all of a sudden there was this young punk called Valentino Rossi that was giving him the finger and fucking driving him demented, right? Then with Valentino Rossi, there was this young fucker, Jorge Lorenzo, young little fucker, Casey Stoner, do you know what I mean? And then this little fucking shithead, Marc Marquez, arrived, do you know what I mean? And made shit at him, right? And then when you look at Marc Marquez, now there's a little fucker, Pecco Bagnaia, Marco Fasecchi, all, and you look at it as a generational thing, do you know what I mean? They just keep getting faster. I
don't think they get faster. I don't.
I do
because
think so.
You look at, I go back far enough where I go, the three fastest riders in history have been Marc Marquez, Freddie Spencer, and Kenny Roberts Jr. Because remember, those last two, you have your guys in the 90s. They beat them by a
yeah, but I think
But I still think
like they have evolved. Like if you look at Pecco and Bezzecchi, for example, or even Brad Binder or Jack Miller, all these people, they're not afraid of Marc Marquez.
Oh, I don't think they're afraid of anybody. They don't have fear. They lack fear.
But that's what I mean. Like the generational differences coming through of it, right? You look at your 500cc riders, right? They were a fucking afraid of that bike. Do you know what I mean? There was a healthy fear of that bike.
I gotta say, yeah.
Yeah, right. So you ask for more power when you shouldn't get more power, and you're fucking gone to the moon, right?
Yep.
Whereas now, the risk or the fear of a high side is not as present as back in the 500 days, or even the early MotoGP days, right? So they're more focused on riding, being like gone are the days of smoking a fag and drinking beer the night before the fucking race, or do you know what I mean? Yeah. These guys now are purebred professionals, and there's an evolution for me. There's an evolution that they're just keeping, like, there's a lot more consistent, faster people now. Do you know what I mean? Who fear less.
And with the electronics, everybody's gotten closer. You know what I mean?
They have gotten closer. I would say it's a little easier to ride now that you have the electronics. I won't say it's easier to ride. I think it's you have less.
The bikes handle a hell of a lot better than they used to.
Yeah, you have less to focus on. You just have to focus on going fast.
Yeah.
Whereas before, part of going fast was focusing on staying on the fucking bike, right, on the saddle, not fucking. But
I have a bone to pick with you, by the way. You know I don't know F1, right?
Yes.
And when you said, "Oh, they took the electronics off the F1 and it worked," and then some guy wrote in, he goes, "Oh no, they didn't. They took the electronics off the F1. They were crashing all over the place." You knew I didn't know F1.
No, there's no traction control. There's no ABS. There's nothing like that on F1.
Yeah, and the guy said when they took it off, and they first took it off, right, when they had it all electronic up, right, he says the cars were crashing all over the place.
No, they weren't. That's fucking horseshit. Complete horseshit. They took off the major in 1992 is when they got rid of the active suspension off of the Williams. I think it's F13B, and they went into the F14 that Senna drove and ultimately died in. That basically was because they designed the car around active suspension, and the FIA removed it before the start of the season and banned it. Therefore, the car was designed to have active suspension, but it had to go back to regular suspension. That's why they couldn't get control of that car until mid-season. So, yes, Williams had a problem, but none of the rest of the teams had a problem in 1994 with the development of the car, because Benetton, who was one of the teams, designed a way that they could hide, and McLaren were also doing it. McLaren did it in 97, where they had a third brake pedal. They had a third pedal in the box.
Third brake pedal, that's trick.
Third brake pedal, but they only had two pedals in the box, so there was a third pedal, which was an extra brake, and that used to engage the rear brake separately. So as they were going around the corner, they could just touch the rear brake, and they would just help turn the car around the corner. And it was actually caught by a photographer because they should not have had a glowing brake disc on the rear of the car as they were excited the rear of the car, and someone saw it. But no, it took them a while to adapt. The drivers had to adapt to it, but getting rid of the electronics and they went to a standard ECU then eventually, similar to what MotoGP have done. But there is no traction control and there is no ABS in modern Formula One. There is geo mapping and all of this fucking technology.
I was going to say they just changed it over to something else. Yeah.
The car, but basically, like when they had active suspension, right, the car would go. Let's just say Stowe corner, the first corner in Silverstone, right, which is fast corner, right. But the car would level itself, and as it's going through the corner, the car would automatically dial itself to be at the perfect position. Right. So all the driver realistically had to do was turn at the right time.
Right.
I mean, he was keeping his foot flat in the pedal, and turning, and the car was doing the rest of the work. And yet, while it was interesting, it took away an awful lot of the driver's skill for me, right? I'm a purist when it comes to racing. I think the person on top of the bike or the car is the computer. Do you know what I mean?
I just think. I know. I was saying that once you hit a certain point, once you get past human reflexes, you know what I mean. Exactly. Once it gets so fast and so powerful, you need it because you can't do anything without it. You know what I mean?
And I don't disagree with that fact, right? But I would disagree on some facts then with if you're coming out of the corner, and as we talked about the rear right height, for example, if you are getting maximum acceleration out of that, okay, you are arriving in the let's just take the last corner of Sepang, right? You come into that, it's a hairpin, the bike sits down, and you fucking dart out of it, right?
Yeah.
You're getting maximum drive, maximum adhesion, minimum slip of whatever, and you arrive at turn 1, which is another fucking hairpin, at a ferocious rate of knots, right? Whereas if you come out and you don't engage the rear right height, and you head out, all I'm saying is that your top speed at the end of that straight will be different.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's, for me, that's where I'm saying the riders have to manage. I'm not saying that they don't have traction control, or I'm not saying anything. I don't want to see riders.
But in like F1, they said you switch it over to something else, and it just ends up costing money.
But they didn't. You see, they cannot replace. They cannot have any aero mass down. Like now, look, there's been some of these fucking devices, right, that people have tried to run and got banned, right? But like, they cannot have any hydraulic suspension. Just say, for example, that is connected front and rear. Do you know what I mean? Our control of pitch and this, that, and the other. And like, unfortunately for Formula One, they have some of the best engineers to circumnavigate the rules.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but that's right. What costs money. So banning ends up costing money. It ends up costing more money than anything else, and it has, no matter if it's those cars, motorcycles, you know.
Look, I think you could spend millions and billions on Formula One. That's why they brought in the cost cap then, right? Yeah. Like if you look at it, I think it's $135 million a year F1 teams can now spend. Now, look, that's a lot of money, right? But it's a fucking hell of a lot less than what they were spending. I know.
Isn't that amazing? It's a hell of a lot less. I remember they were up to $500,000 or $500 million. Yeah. And I was like, well, how do you spend that much money? I mean, God.
I remember Toyota, and one of my good friend's dad was a senior person in Toyota Formula One. And how senior he was, he used to fly from Dublin to Cologne, Germany every day. They used to fly him in a private jet. That's how senior he was in it, right? And it was Ralf Schumacher and Jarno Trulli that were in the team. And I asked him one day, we were sitting down and we were talking away, and I was telling them, I was like, how many engines do you run in a weekend? And he said, we have 8 for each car and 2 spare. 8 engines they use during the race weekend. Each car. So that's 16 engines and 2 spare. So that's 18 engines. Now, can you imagine the cost of those engines? Just
the engines, right?
So look, there you have it. Look, it's and why are they doing it? Because everyone else was fucking doing it. Do you know what I mean? And so look, while banning stuff and getting rid of stuff, and I would prefer to see 30 bikes on the grid than 10 bikes on the grid. Do you know what I mean? And if a little bit of standardization or stuff like this has to happen to achieve that.
Yeah.
Because for me, the technology is some of the show, but it's what happens from when the lights go out to the checkered flag.
I tell you what, though, we have had some close racing. My God, you look at it, pole position down to 10th. What are we down to? Like a half second?
Half second, yeah. Like that's what I was saying. One of the videos there is like, if you're second off, you're battling for 15th or 16th.
Yeah. Like we're looking about Anaya. He broke his shoulder blade. People are like, what happened? And I honestly, I've never heard of a shoulder blade breaking, okay, on a rider. So I don't know how long it takes for that certain to repair. Yeah. But that could be the whole situation with him. And remember he didn't set his bike up. Remember, he himself said, by his own admissions, I don't set up a bike. And then they gave him a new. They used to just say, "Here's the bike, you ride it." Okay, and his engineer used to set it up for him. Then they changed his engineer.
Well,
that's right, because he left, went to KTM. That could be a problem too. That could be a point right there where the guy they haven't meshed yet, right? And on top of it, the guy's a broken collarbone or shoulder blade.
So look, I think there is a physical injury, but I don't think that would stop him in 1 lap pace, right? And he's not even there on 1 lap pace. Do you know what I mean? Like, if he, for me, he needs to be in the top 10 in qualifying, right? Like, he's on a factory fucking bike, and I've always maintained factory bikes need to be in there, right? Now, look, he's only it's only his 3rd race back that he's done. I'll give him time, but the injury is the injury. I just think it's a lack of experience in dealing with a brand new bike. That bike is brand new to him.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't help the matter. That's for sure.
He came from a very well sorted GP21.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm going to call it a GP22. Like, the only thing that was 21 on that bike was the engine.
Yeah. Well, he came from well-sorted 19 to a well-sorted 21 to the thing. That's what I remember he said, I don't know how to set a bike up at all. They put it, and then I jump on it and I ride it. That's it. Then we make jokes.
But saying that, right, like, I would expect Joe, the engineering team that he had, right, and the engineer that he had, I think he was actually Dobby's engineer.
Yeah, was.
So look, they would have an awful now, and I know he's gone, but the factory team would have an awful lot of really, really experienced people that would be able to give him the direction. But he definitely hasn't found that right setup for himself, and I do believe that could be down to more so his inexperience in the jump. Like, when you walk into a factory team, it's not just, oh, hi, I'm here to ride your bike and that's it. Like, there's a fucking lot of pressure that comes with it.
Oh yeah.
And you're battling back from an injury. So, like, headspace firstly, and then you're getting on the bike. There's an expectation that you need to finish in the top 10, right? And then you're not finishing in the top 10, so the fucking pressure cooker goes up and up and up and up. And it's not that you can turn around and say, well, the bike is shit.
Yeah, and the second rider should be helping the number one rider in setup. I would think they would be part of his job.
Well, no, I would say they're fairly equal in stature within the team, right? I think, well, okay, Pecco is still the golden boy, right? But, like, you could see it, like, when Enya was out, Pecco was struggling. Pecco bitched and moaned. I was like, the fucking bike, right? He now has the bike the way he wants it. Do you know what I mean?
Too good now?
And it's too good. Yeah, it's too stable. That will go down in history as well.
Yeah, it's just too good.
It's too stable on the front end. But I think for me, when I look at Enya, I think, like, and I'm a big fan of Enya, and I'm like, you're made look very, very ordinary. Do you know what I mean? Yes, he did break that. I already believe Ducati have written off this year for him. Do you know what I mean? They've said, like, get yourself back healthy, get an understanding of the bike. The change from the GP23 to the GP24, I don't believe is going to be massive again. I think they're just going to keep tweaking until someone comes and blows them away or gets very, very close. Then they'll say, okay, well, we need to spend a couple more bob here.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? But I think they're just
they'll take the experimental view, the experimental blueprints off the shelf. You know what I mean? I'm sure they're piled up.
I'm sure Gigi has a few ideas. All right, yeah. But for me, where I'm looking at it is that, and then Joe, right off, kind of this year is gone. Get him comfortable, get him developing on the bike, and then when he goes into next year, it shouldn't be too much, like maybe a race or two to get the bike dialed in. And then he should be on for it. But I'll be very honest. I was expecting Enya Bastianini and Pecco to be going fucking toe to toe this year.
Toe to toe, yeah. And you weren't alone either. A lot of people thought that. A lot of people thought he was, and Enya was gonna outspeed Pecco.
Yeah. And look, it's easy to say, Ducati should have signed Jorge Martin to the seat. Like hindsight is fucking.
That's funny, right?
But like Martin had a big off in Portugal, and he wasn't the same for a long time either, right? Your man had a big off also in Portugal, and Bastianini did. And again, it's for me, it's a shame to see him down there. And I think he's under an awful lot of pressure, especially with Pecco winning, and you're coming in 10th or 15th or 12th or whatever. So I think he just definitely has to. He just has to improve.
I wonder if he can take pressure, because he's always one of them guys. He's always smiling. You know what I mean? And sometimes a lot of guys that are always smiling inside, they're crying.
I don't think they get that far without being able to take the pressure. Like realistically, he would have been under a lot of pressure in Moto 2 as well, and he dealt with it. Maybe a different pressure. Now the fact that he's riding for a main factory, I think where the team where he came from in Gresini, I think they loved him, and he just felt the love. And maybe it's a step out. How would you say? It's a step out into the cold. Do you know what I mean? The factory is a little bit more. While it is family orientated, it's also very
dry.
Very, very results. Like you're only as good as your last race win.
Yeah.
By the way, Enya, when was your last race win? Oh, it was fucking last year. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Just totally not like we know you broke your shoulder or you broke your shoulder blade. It's like okay, yeah.
Here's your tickets away. Yeah. Here's your ticket.
When was your last podium? Oh, yeah. Let's just go over here to Jorge. But no, look, I think they're all teams are as ruthless like that now, except with the exception of some satellite teams. They kind of need to put the arm around, especially when they have talent. I
am shocked with I'm sorry, but that more to belly. Yeah, I am just like, what are they thinking? Did they hit their head? You know what I mean?
For the Pramac ride.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Geez, I'm fucking hearing rumors that Mark is trying.
I can't fathom also that Mark doesn't get a ride, and when he wants out, I mean, I would thought that everybody would be falling at his feet. He can get out of that contract.
He's out of it. He can get out of it at any time, and even fucking Japan even said that if he doesn't want to stay, he can leave.
Yeah, because remember I was saying originally there was an out clause. I was looking up that he had an out clause very back then.
Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether he does or he doesn't, right?
You can wipe your ass with it, right?
Have said, if he wants to leave and he doesn't want to ride with us, I'm sure they will let him leave. It will cost them money to leave, right?
Right,
100%. But for me, major rumors have come out that apparently that there could be an opportunity to put Mark on a works Ducati in the Pramac team, put Morbidelli in Christine.
Good. I can't see on the grid. He might be a dick, but he's still the fastest guy. Marquez, he's still the fastest rider on MotoGP. He might be a smackdown,
Yeah, I don't know. I just can't see it happening. I think he would cause too much trouble within the Yamaha or within the Ducati family.
I think they'd tell him to go pound sand, and he couldn't. He'd have to. You put him on the bike, he's going to want to win, and that's the bottom line. You know what I mean? And he's going to know I'm on the best bike. I want to win. I'm too old to be fucking around going this team to team to team. You know what I mean? Looking for Shangri-La.
Yeah, I still think I think he needs a couple of things. I think he definitely needs a better, faster bike. But I think he also needs the what I would call the emotional support behind it. And I just don't think Ducati are going to give him that.
One of our members came out and said, he's a good rider, but he has the brain of a butter knife. It's just
and this for me is where I actually think I don't think it's a good idea if Mark does go to KTM. I don't. I think Mark should go to Aprilia.
I do too. I think he should go to Aprilia.
Personally, that's where I think he should go to. I think Rivola is the sort of team principal that he needs.
Yes.
When you look at it, like look at what's happening with LH Spagro now, right? You never see Rivola getting on his fucking case about it. Very supportive, very this, very, very that, very, very controlled. And I think that's the box that's missing with Mark and Honda right now, is that Mark can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Mark,
I think the Aprilia is a better bike than people know. Without their super rider in there, I think it's a better bike. It just, no one's tapped into its abilities yet.
Exactly, and I think no one has brought that bike to that next level. Like Maverick, I don't know. Look, Maverick is not a bad rider, but I think he's an RNF rider, personal.
Yeah, and if you're not consistent, you can't bring a bike to the next level. It's harder to, because you're up, you're down. You have data on one, and then the data's no good. Then it's good. Then it works. Then it doesn't work. How do you know?
But like you look at it, right? Miguel Oliveira, who I class as a really, really, really talented rider, probably deserves a work seat in Aprilia. Now, the only reason would stop me putting him into a works team is that he seems to attract people hitting him.
I swear to God, he's like a magnet, for God's sake.
Yeah. And I think Marquez and Oliveira as teammates would be a very, very strong combination if Oliveira, again, isn't a magnet. I don't think Raul Fernandez should be there. I think he's underperformed on a race-winning bike. And, when Oliveira was out, he should have made a massive, massive, massive dent into Oliveira, and he should be by far miles ahead of him in the championship, and he's not. I reckon Oliveira will catch him by the end of the year.
Who was the guy that said he was going to stink this year? Oh yeah, me.
Yeah, well, look, he isn't doing his whinging, and this is where I go back to the control that Rivola puts in. There is definitely a structure within Aprilia to shut them up. Do you know what I mean? And have them focus on their riding. And I'll go back to when Honda rolled out the Calic chassis, right? Mm-hmm. Mark went fucking balls to the wall. Yeah. I'm going to push this way past the limit, crash it, fucking this, that, the other. And Pooch was like, okay. Saxon Ring, Mark had 3 crashes, then he had another 2 crashes. Pooch was like, okay. Do you know what I mean? And it was actually finally down to Mark deciding himself, maybe this is not the best way to be fucking testing. Whereas you could kind of see with Rivola, there would be a plan. You know what I mean? Okay, we're going to launch a new chassis like they've done with Salvadori. Mm-hmm. Someone gave me shit about his name. I don't care. I call him what I want. Jake says Japanese and more of a belly.
Yeah, exactly.
But they tested that carbon chassis. Then Salvadori raced it in thing. Totally. There's a plan. Right. There's a plan to do that. You know what I mean? If that was Honda, Mark would have it out. You know what I mean? It would be in the fucking gravel because Mark would crash it. Right? Okay, Salvadori got knocked off by Fabio. But in the main race, then he brought it home. And it's just okay, there's a plan. You're testing something experimental. Don't crash. Do not crash it. Get the miles, put the miles on it. Yeah. Let's figure out where we need to improve this. That doesn't seem to happen under Pooch's watch and stuff like this. And, and this is where I'm saying with Mark.
Marquez always did that, though. He always went balls to the wall. As soon as he got out of the pit wing, he was gone. No matter what, it was always 100%, 100%,
100%. But when you're trying something new, you need to go to 90%. You know, you can't.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I totally agree.
So,
I mean,
I think that's where if Mark and I think if Mark goes to KTM will tell him, we just want to win a world championship. Go.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Where Aprilia will say, you know, we know you're fast. We know we have a fast bike. Let's put the two together and dominate. But let's not crash it every fucking race.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. We don't have to win practice. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? We have to win test.
And I think that's where Rivola will massively come in, is helping with that phase. And then that'll bring Mark to the next level, in my view.
And I think they're more laid back there. I think that they'll let him have his little speeches in the pits. You know what I mean? His little cheerleading, sessions and stuff like that. To him, that means a lot.
Oh yeah, that he can talk to his fans and he can be
I mean, the crew. He had those little crew things. He had those little, cheerleading sessions to the crew and stuff like that. I don't know if Ducati would cotton to that. Where I think Aprilia would. They don't care.
Yeah. Well, look, it's good exposure for them. Do you know what I mean? Even having him on board, but I think that's the sort of manufacturer he needs. He needs them to have a fast bike, but needs to be taken to another level, and then he needs them to be able to give him the structure that he can excel on.
Yeah,
because an awful lot of people have said, is Mark done? I don't think he's done if he gets on in the Aprilia. I think it'll take him a while on a KTM. I don't think he's like for me, Marquez doesn't save tires either. And if he goes on to the KTM and they have that problem, I can see him battling with Pecco and whoever up the front to 5 or 10 laps to go, and then he's struggling. Then
the tires start to go out, and then he tries to override it. Okay, and either he wins it or bins it.
100%, and that's genuinely where I see him going on the KTM. So for me, if I was looking at it, Pramac Ducati, I'm hearing the rumors, but I just don't think Ducati genuinely wants. I think they would like him, but I think he would disturb an awful lot of their feng shui.
Yeah,
and I think his riding style then compared to other riding styles, I think there'll be too much risk. That's personally just my view to the project. But we'll wait and see what happens. And I think a big side of this then will also be that if if they did do a deal just say with Pramac Ducati, I just think it'd be way too far out there for them because of Mark's riding style, and then it would fuck up. But like an awful lot of them have very similar riding style, for the most part, except for Bezzecchi. Actually, he returns really, really tight. But I think there's
Marquez has a unique riding style.
And I think that he would try to influence it to go down another path, and I think that's. Yeah, I just think there's too many variables for Mark to go to Pramac. I think if you went to KTM, I just don't think KTM is ready for him unless they can sort out that tire wear problem. So if I was Marquez and team, I would be looking, personally. Well, not fucking Yamaha anyway.
Yeah, I'm missing my man Quartararo up there. I'm hoping he does pretty good next.
Yeah,
at least a couple of these races. Didn't he do well? He did well at Catalonia last year, didn't he?
He did, but he also did very well at fucking Austria last year.
Shh. You're putting a wet blanket on this, buddy.
Sorry for keeping it real.
We should have a mantra of that for all the freaking fanboys. Sorry for keeping it real.
Keeping it real. Yeah. No, look, genuinely, when every race goes on, obviously I'm rooting for Yamaha to win, but I also want to be very real and keep my expectations in check.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That I'd love to see a battle between Marquez, Pecco, Secchi, and Quadraro, Binder, Joe. Like, I'd love to see a 5 or 6 point dice for the race victory. Unfortunately,
that's a scary thought of having Marc Marquez in the middle of 5 guys. You know what I mean? 5 riders. Oh, Jesus.
Torpedo.
Yeah, tires over the side of the bike like a tugboat. You
fucking would. You would 110%. But I think on that bright and bombshell note, I think we'll probably end up on end today's podcast. Thank you everyone for listening to us doing our usual. And yeah, it's race week. Let's see what this weekend holds, huh?
Yep. I want to get a hold of you before the thing and try to do this. If I can't get my other buddy, so I can put the race on the. I'll do it after the race, just in case I don't want to miss the race. After the race, I want to go and so I can get it on my TV.
Okay. Well,
there's something I got to write in on search. I remember, and I can't get it.
Okay, so we might do it Friday evening. Anyway.
No, do it after the race. I'll just see it on the computer for the first time.
Okay, perfect. Right. Radio and on that bombshell.